blue singing horses, cities in weird snow globes, and possibly the end of the world. No, you're not having an acid trip. I'm actually talking about the latest episode of DC Universe's Doom Patrol, Season 1, Episode 4, Review and Breakdown. Hey y'all, it's your Twisted Girl Next Door here, and today I am doing a review and breakdown of Season 1, Episode 4 of DC Universe's Doom Patrol. Okay, so if you're new here, this is how it goes. I give my overall thoughts of the episode, the happenings, as in what happened in the episode, and my thoughts on that. Ship talk, because I do love talking about relationships. Predictions, because I'll take a guess, even if I am wrong. And finally, because this is based off of the comic book characters, I do comic book talk. Overall, this was weird. So weird. Oh my gosh, it was such a weird episode. And that's saying a lot, right? Because this whole show has been weird from the very beginning, but there was something that was just an extra special kind of weird about this episode, where as I was watching it, for at least the first 10 minutes, there was a lot of what the heck is happening going on in my mind. And so, yes, it was weird, a little scattered. It was a little scattered. I've realized with this show that it's very much you kind of just have to go along with it, right? I think by this fourth episode, I've come to accept that whatever you think is going to happen next episode probably won't, and they'll probably go in a totally different kind of direction, because they're just kind of going on this journey, and the journey's not necessarily a straight line. And so because I've kind of accepted that, it makes it a little bit, I don't even want to say easier to watch. I'm able to enjoy it for what it is and what it's giving me, which is a whole lot of weirdness. The Cult of the Unwritten Book. Okay, so we're introduced to the guy Kipling, aka Constantine Light, as we can call him. And I'm not actually even throwing shade. I'll talk about this a little bit more in my comic book talk. But fun fact, this guy was pretty much supposed to be Constantine, if you know that character. But there was something going on with Vertigo Comics when it came to, copyright. So they made this guy, which is pretty much just like Constantine, just a different name and belonging to the Knights Templar. Yeah, so this thing. So it's the end of the world, possibly, because this kid, young man, who's literally a book in a way, has the words on him physically that can bring about the end of the world, can bring about the de-creator. And so what happens is Kipling shows up to the mansion and asks Doom Patrol to basically help him get the book. And, Kipling wants to kill the guy or burn him so they can't read the book. And, of course, Vic and them aren't for killing him or burning books, according to Cliff. And so they are trying to protect him. And so that kind of sparks the whole thing. They kind of have to pause in looking for Chief. Not that they were doing a good job of finding Chief in the first place anyway. Yeah, so a variety of things happen within this plot line, right? What we have is Rita, still being resistant to being a hero in a way, but she kind of finds her way of being a hero and the way that she's kind of useful to the team. Although I think she's very useful to the team. And we actually saw some of her powers a little bit more than just turning into a blob, which was really cool. Very much becoming the Elastigirl that she's known for being. So we saw some elements of that. Vic, Cyborg trying to be a leader, still getting resistance from the rest of the so-called team. Jane and Cliff kind of go off on their own journey when it comes to, they were trying to get the priest, because the whole Santa Maria thing, that's not even what it was it? What was it? You know what I mean? The wounds of Jesus. That. And they fell, of course, because they fell a lot. And then they end up in a snow globe, which is Nunheim, which is where the, cult kind of chills at, because that city moves around and it's currently in a snow globe. That's actually in the mansion. Yeah, like I said, weird. And then we also find a revelation regarding Larry when it comes to, the situation with the force of energy that's in his body. There was something where, the force of energy, and talking to Chief on the tape, said torture. And I was a little confused on whether or not the energy was saying he was being tortured by being in Larry's body, or that in order to stay in his body, Larry was torturing himself or something. I didn't really understand that completely. And it also ends on a cliffhanger because basically the cult gets hold of the book, Elliot, again, and they're reading it. And so some big old eye appears in the sky. Oh my gosh, so weird. And yeah, it might be the end of the world. So it's clearly going to be a two-parter. What I liked about this plot line was I like the Rita focus because I think we have been focusing a lot on Crazy Jane or Jane for some time. And although I do like the character of Jane, I think the actress is doing such a wonderful job in all the different types of characters she has to play. I think Rita is a very interesting character, right? We've gotten some glimpses of her time back in the 1940s, 1950s being a starlet and just what she's going through right now. And I've been wanting to get a little bit more into her character. And I thought I appreciated, her having a little bit more focus and us seeing those moments of her being heroic. And just that whole thing with her arm was really cool. I thought that was really cool. I also thought the situation with Larry, I'm hoping this gets, kind of taken care of soon. Not necessarily like I don't like Larry. Like I like the character of Larry. I like, Negative Man. What I think is happening though is that they're kind of stalling him in this plot line of what's going on with the energy to the point where it's moving such at a snail's pace. The thing with Cliff and Jane, I think they're an okay duo. I'll talk a little bit deeper about that ship in my ship talk segment. With them being stuck in the snow globe, I thought that was an interesting scene. The whole thing of the way, they see themselves, the way they see each other, and the fact that the cult can do that to somebody was actually pretty cool. So I actually dug that. And the whole thing of the magic element, it's kind of weird where that fits in, right? Because superhero shows can be weird sometimes. It's fantasy, it's dark fantasy a lot of the time. But, sometimes a lot of the characters can be created through science. And then with the whole character like Kipling, and to another extent, Constantine, if you know that character, that's more magic, right? And it's harder to explain the magical elements in these universes because a lot of the time a lot of these characters have gotten their stuff because of some weird freak scientific accident and stuff like that, or something cosmic happening, and not necessarily, oh, it's magic. And it can be hard to mesh that in the two worlds because, and I think that's why I had like the what the heck stuff in the beginning of the episode, like when he like uses the cigarette to make the gate and they walk through, and I'm like, that's cool, but it's also like, wow, exactly. That thing with that blue singing horse, and it sings, and they give it like 5 minutes. Like that was a long singing thing. I mean, I thought it was cute, and I laughed at first, but at the same time, I was like, man, this is a whole song. That's a lot of screen time, for a blue singing horse. But even that was like, yeah, what is this coming from? Where's the base of this? I need to know the how. But it was a little scattered, and it was a lot to take in. That was the thing too. It was a lot to take in because because of the fact that we've had a lot of stuff that's science based for so much of this show thus far. And I don't mean science based like real tech, but just like the things that happen to people, you can explain why it's happened to them, the accidents and all that other stuff. With this one, because it's magic and everything, Kipling had to come in and kind of give us exposition for a good 10 minutes of what things were and who he was and stuff. And exposition can be good, but it can also feel like, yes, now we have to stop and listen to the exposition so that all of us are caught up. And it's a lot. Yeah, this is different. I have to kind of set my brain to take this one in. But I like the effects. I like the overall, what they were trying to do with the plot line. But we haven't moved any closer to finding Chief. And we aren't even getting any glimpses of where he is. And we haven't seen Mr. Nobody since like the second episode, which is a little disappointing because I really like Mr. Nobody. I think he's really fun. So we haven't had him narrating, which is a little, once again, jarring because he had been narrating since the beginning of the season and now he's just not. I mean, of course, maybe that would have gotten old after a bit, but to have such a cool character for the first two episodes be so interwoven in the scripts and stuff to now like he's just not there and neither is Chief, it's like, yeah, you kind of miss it. Vic and Rita. Okay, so I don't know about you, but I am sensing the tension, and I don't think it's platonic. It's really weird, And you know what's so funny though is I thought, and it kind of threw me off a little bit because I thought the last episode they ended up getting along, like they were arguing, but eventually, like he sat next to her on the bench and they talked. So it was a little weird that in this episode he's just kind of. It felt like he was messing with her, kind of like how schoolboys pull girls' hair that they like or something where he was just like, he invites everyone else. Everyone else has been resistant to being part of it too. So the fact that he's kind of like, he just disinvites Rita and then she comes and like, he's like, oh, whatever you want to do. And then she walks away and he kind of laughs. I'm like, is he messing with her? I don't know. I feel like it might be culminating into them eventually like having some like outburst of a makeout session or something eventually. But I felt it. I was just like, and I thought it was very poignant that they have it so it's the two of them. Not saying that everything has to turn into a romance, but I thought it worked. I thought it was cute, honestly, and I laughed a few times, and they're kind of the bickering that they had going on, it worked for me, and I guess I'm sort of shipping them a little bit. It's just kind of weird that they're kind of confrontational right now, and it seemed like they were getting along towards the end of the last episode, but I think they're building up for something with them for some reason. And yeah, so that's kind of where they stand. They're at odds right now, but I don't think it's like serious odds. I think it's more like we're going to end up making out eventually odds. Jane and Robotman. Oh my gosh. And I said this last episode, right? I mentioned this. And I was like, it's kind of weird to me because I think he kind of sees his daughter in Jane, which is weird to me. I said, because, in the comics, they're like romance relationship. And I thought that's what they were doing in the beginning of this season. Like the pilot episode made it seem like this was going to be something of a romance. Yes, I did think it was kind of rushed that suddenly, Cliff is so attached to Jane, but I thought, okay, well, they're trying to get to that point and whatnot. Like, out of everyone, why is Jane the one that he's attached to? You think he'd be probably more attached to Rita or something, but they pushed that. And this episode just kind of, I don't want to say confirmed my fears. I don't know if I feared it, but I feel like he was looking at her like his daughter. And I feel like the cult of the Unwritten book pretty much put that plainly in front of our eyes and his. Although he seemed to sort of deny it, right? Like, what? You think I look at you like my daughter? Or, and maybe that's what Jane thinks, right? Maybe Jane thinks he looks at her like his daughter and it's like, whoa, I'm not your daughter. It can go one of two ways. It could be like him denying it because he really doesn't see her as a daughter, like he's like into her, or maybe he admits like, maybe I'm transferring, wanting to save you with how I couldn't save my daughter or like be a part of my daughter's life. I don't know where they're going with this, but they kind of need to tread lightly because I feel like they need to pick a side because I'm gonna feel a little weird about if they don't make it plain how he sees her. And if they try to pursue something romantic, because I'm going to be like, listen, you need to let me know specifically whether you're looking at this chick like that's your daughter or not. Like, tell the viewing audience first before we go any further with this ship. With my predictions, I'm basically back to not knowing anything. Like, I don't even know what I could guess. Never in a million years would I probably have guessed that we would get the episode we did get. Recently. I was just like, what is this? Wow. But I think it's just like, I don't know where it's gonna go. I don't even know where Kipling like fits in this. I mean, maybe my hope is that at the end of them helping him or helping the world, that he'll give them some type of hint as to how they can find the chief. So that's sort of my prediction. All right, so comic book talk. Yes, the cult of the Unwritten book is actually in the comics. They first appear in the Doom Patrol comics, which is pretty cool, I think, right? So they appear there, and it's pretty much the same kind of plot line going on. The whole thing of the book, the thing of the decreator, the thing of the book being a person, and things of that nature, and Doom Patrol trying to basically like defeat them. It's a little bit. I guess we saw some glimpses of the different types of characters in the cult, although they weren't explained or anything like that. There were some elements, and we saw that. We saw the thing about the different moving city of Nunheim, because that's what it does. It's a moving city. It moves around, and I guess One of the things is that it moves, it can move anywhere. And in this particular, case we saw in the live action, that it is in the snow globe at the moment. So that is one thing. This is definitely not them pulling it out of nowhere. The Cult of the Unwritten book is actually from the Doom Patrol comics, which, I think just solidifies more and more that comic series was nuts. The other thing is Kipling. Like I said, it wasn't me throwing shade about him being Constantine Light. He actually was supposed to be Constantine. At the time, I guess, Constantine was created by Vertigo Comics. And so at the time when he was originally supposed to appear in Doom Patrol around this, the Unwritten book, cult plot line, they couldn't use him because there was something with the copyright of being used by Vertigo at the same time of DC Comics. So, they were connected, but they couldn't use them. So what they did, they created this character of Kipling, which is pretty much Constantine with the whole magic and dark magic and stuff like that. Yes, he's very much in the comics. Kipling is in the comics, and he was supposed to be Constantine. So fun fact about that. I thought that was really interesting. He was a good fun time in this episode, and so I guess we'll see where it goes with him, but he's in the comics. All right, so what did you think of this latest weird episode of Doom Patrol? Do you think the magic element works? Do you think it works that Kipling's there? Do you think it's too much of a contrast? Do you think it's all over the place and scattered? Are you wondering, like I'm wondering, if they're ever going to find Chief? Let me know, comment down below. And also, be sure to subscribe so that you're the first to know when I post my videos of all things horror, dark fantasy, and dark superhero. Thanks for watching. Let's get creepy together.